Right. For those of you who don't know what the Daily Stormer is, I did an entire live stream breakdown of the methodology behind how they make their articles, who they try to appeal to. For those who don't know, the Daily Stormer is a Nazi website that makes articles for white supremacists. Now, you might think that that's hyperbolic because, well, those darn SJWs on the internet always talk about Nazis, and they call everybody they don't like a Nazi. But believe me when I tell you, after I show you this article, you'll understand what I mean. Because we got a couple things to talk about here. So, here is the Daily Stormer website. And this is one of their most recent articles on said website. Now, there's a couple things I want to pull your attention to here on the actual website. The first is that we're not getting into that yet. We are going to get into the fan art section as per usual because there's a lot of shit to get into. And we need an actual little bit of serotonin. So, this is a meme that was dropped by JacandQuil, and we do not have the ability to show it on the actual server itself, because despite me knowing this meme, it still is just a little more adult than what we would normally accept on the server. But, anyway, with that said, thank you for the fan art submission. For most things, if you want them to be shown on future videos, drop them into the Discord server. For everything else, there's Walgreens. Alright, Daily Stormer. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about this. So the title of the article here is Jews Introduce New Concerns About Human Breeding Patterns. Is there anything else I have to say at that point? Like, all right, let's take an actual let's do an autopsy here of the actual article. Not the article itself. We'll look at that too, but the way this website is constructed. So of course we have here an article we're going to go over that talks about Jews disparagingly, and then we have here we've of course got our lovely little MAGA hat, and then we have a countdown here. Now, this is one of the reasons why I am not the biggest fan of Destiny doing his little League of Legends shenanigans with Lauren Southern, the main propagator of the Great Replacement Theory, the idea that white people will one day be replaced and wiped off the face of the earth, and moreover, that we should care about that through such terribly heinous things as brown people having sex with them. Oh my god! A brown person might one day have sex with a white person, and then their baby will be less white than you wanted! The horror! Shock! Anyway. No, we're not fucking canceling Destiny. I have that disagreement with him. I don't like the fact that he did that. But this isn't about Destiny. This is about platforming Lauren fucking Southern. We have a demographic countdown here where it is an automated thing trying to calculate exactly how many white people are being replaced by non-white people in the world. Now, I am 100% certain that this is an automated thing, and it's not actually tracking any real fucking statistics. It's literally just programmed to, in 22 years, show that all the white people have been wiped off the face of the earth. Ah! That's what it reads to me. And if I seem like I'm being more childish than usual here, it's because I can't take this LARPing shit seriously. Like, we dealt with Nazis ages ago. So seeing Nazis do Nazi stuff now, it's just a thing. Now, granted, you can't get to the Daily Stormer website by Googling. It is a blacklisted website on Google. So I did have to go through other means to get to the website. But let's look at the article itself, outside of the lovely little LARPing calendar here, where people are pissing themselves that brown people want to fuck them. Weird, right? Really weird. Number of acceptances to study law in 2017 here. More women are studying law than men, apparently. Oh no! Will the women's one day replace the men's? It says Jews weren't concerned about human breeding before, but now apparently they are? From Insider, women now make up close to 60% of those enrolled in college. A record, the Wall Street Journal reported. The gap between men and women enrolled in college is quickly widening. New York University professor Scott Galloway told CNN that the gap is leading to a mating crisis. Now, the creator of the article says that I don't know that I'm convinced. Oh, sorry, hold on. This is a stupid person. I don't know that I'm convinced that women are only 60% of college students. From what I've personally witnessed, it's more like 85%. Okay, so, first of all, I'm sorry that you're so concerned that even with 85% of the people around you being women, not one of them wanted to fuck you. I know that that's a terrible thing to have to deal with, but I also just frankly don't care. Secondly, I like how polling data showing that 60% of college students are women is there, but then from his personal anecdote, that's what we need to be caring about. That's the part we have to be concerned about. Dude, nobody cares about your anecdote. They really and seriously don't. Continuing on, of course, the whole university system, like the entire society at large, is designed to give totally unfair advantages to women while punishing men for the swing of their penises. Nobody's punishing men for the swing of their dicks, dude. Okay, so there are areas in which women have advantages over men, especially when it comes to child custody, but that even depends on the state. Historically, though, in the vast majority of areas, when it comes to employment, voting rights, the ability to just have their human rights looked at in general, being taken seriously, women have had the disadvantages in the majority of these areas. Yes, there are some key areas where they have advantages, and we need to seek equality in those areas. But to argue that historically the vast majority of advantages were not favored by people like me is a bit fucking ludicrous. Said picking partners too. Nobody, dude, if people aren't attracted to who you personally are or how you personally look, that's an individual personal thing. I just can't quite frankly care about that. Another thing, let's continue on. Of course, the whole university system, I already talked about this part, we live in a matriarchy, and that isn't going to change because someone wrote a news article. The only way this is going to change is if men rise up and begin the real... And begin the real... Oh boy, I don't feel very comfortable. I don't feel very comfortable saying that one. I don't feel so good, Mr. Hitler. Yeah, this is why I just don't care. Continuing on. Oh yeah, I love how he has to write in, that's a metaphor. Then you could have written a better metaphor. If you have to write rape in there, you could have chosen a better one. You really could have. In fact, actually, this is just where we go. I'm just going to go ahead and look at this one for just a little longer. You know, just to remember the type of people that we're dealing with here. If that's the metaphor you have to go with, then very, very likely this is something that you probably shouldn't have written in the first place. Just, you know. You could have just been a better writer. You could have. Continuing on in the article, another thing that we know is that women will divorce their husbands if their husbands make less money than they do. Yeah, and there are men that will divorce their wives for not having enough money. Like, here's the thing. If Raz ends up making more money than me, cool. If she decides to go off and do her own thing because of that, that's her prerogative. I would hope she doesn't. But let's say that you're the type of guy who is a very controlling person, right? And as a very controlling person, while you have control of the finances, you showcase that control. You just kind of do it. You just be an asshole with that money. Well, once somebody is financially stable and does not have to require you for funding, at that point, If they want to leave you, that just says that either they wanted something else, in which case you have to give your consent for that. Otherwise, well, you don't know what consent is. I know you don't. But 2, if all it took was your partner making more money than you for them to leave you, there's probably something you fucking did. There is more than likely something you fucking did in that relationship. I'm sorry. Like, if the only reason somebody was staying with you was because it was a financially viable thing, and everything else was just fucking piss poor otherwise, either A, there's something else they want to go on to, and while that might suck, I don't know the particulars of that situation, but in a lot of situations, I can almost guarantee you, you're being a dick. Stop being a dick. This is not to say that women can't be dicks too in this situation, but to fucking gripe and moan about this as if it's a giant societal problem. Anyway, continuing on with societal problems, Nazis. Meanwhile, the Jews are rambling on about this gender pay gap, which is a totally unfounded fantasy, and actually we have math to back it up. Oh, and by the way, before you decide to be that person who hops in and says, well, actually, the 27% more that men make than women is based off of their individual choices and areas, then I have 2 answers for you. 1, what as a society have we done to inform those choices? And 2, when we actually factor in for the different choices and different risk-taking mechanisms that are there, we still find, what, an 8 to 10% deficiency in that pay gap? Last time I looked up those numbers, I remember there was some actual dipshit on the internet who was trying to argue that, like, I became an SJW so I could date more women, and one of their disagreements was about the gender pay gap thing. Don't even remember who the guy fucking was. I just remember that I saw the video at one point. So I've been in this conversation before. I'm sorry. I've already looked up the fucking numbers here. Anyway, continuing on. I also do not believe that Jews actually care about this problem. These people have been telling us for 100 years that they want to abolish the family unit. Now it's happened. You know Jewish families exist, right? Like, nuclear Jewish families exist? Now it's happened, and they're coming out and saying, oh dear, what caused this? Women are making men completely superfluous, and they are creating a situation where men will exist for no other reason than to be manipulated and abused by dominant women. Oh, Jesus Christ. You mean the reality that women have had to deal with for God knows how long might actually be reciprocated one day in the future? Who could have ever seen that coming? Now, that does not excuse abuse if you happen to be a dominant person who manipulates and abuses people in a relationship. That is horrible, but most of that ends up taking place, as of right now, on a fairly individual basis. So if you're going to be this person who pisses and moans about the social zeitgeist shifting in this way, when I really don't think that's going to be happening, not on such a wide scale, and moreover, blaming it on the Jews somehow, I just don't know what to tell you. But there is something that caught my eye here, not just in this article, because of course this article is a giant explanation in how to just be an incel. That's what it is, at the end of the day. But there's something that I want to point out here. Now, not only do we have the anti-Semitism here where it says, shekels please, goyim, goyim being something to say what a Jewish person would say, or call a non-Jewish person. But not only do we have the anti-Semitism there, but we have a cryptocurrency here called Monero. And of course shown with an anime waifu, much more attractive than anybody that this incel's ever going to be able to date in their lives to begin with. But that's not the interesting part. Let's actually look at what Monero is, because there's a reason it's used specifically. Let's go ahead and read another article real quick over at Fortune.com. Currency of the alt-right. How white supremacists and the far-right used Bitcoin to evade the law and get rich. Now, Bitcoin was originally what was used, but there's a part that I want to go to real quick, and that is talking about Monero. What is it and why is it used? Cryptocurrencies have a reputation for secrecy, but Bitcoin specifically was built on transparency. Every transaction was publicly recorded on a blockchain, which enabled companies like Chainalysis to monitor their activity. Now let's click away from this video, whatever it is. Chainalysis monitors the activity. Individuals can obscure their identities by not publicly linking them to cryptocurrency accounts, but with Bitcoin, they can't hide the transactions themselves. Because of that public footprint, Anglin, in November 2020, just as Donald Trump lost the United States presidential election, abandoned Bitcoin and asked his supporters to send him money on Monero. Now, who is Anglin? Well, who is this person? Well, this guy here, the guy who wrote the article specifically, Andrew Anglin, of the Daily Stormer, who talks about all kinds of stuff, blaming the Jews for every bad thing that happens in society. So this article's talking about him. Now, he wanted his supporters to send him money on Monero because it was a privacy coin designed to enhance anonymity by hiding data about users and their transactions. He published a new guide in February 2021 on how to use Monero, which included instructions for non-US donors. Every Bitcoin transfer is visible publicly. Generally, your name is not attached to the address in a direct way, but spies from the various woke anti-freedom organizations have unlimited resources to try and link these transactions to real names. With Monero, the transactions are all hidden, Anglin wrote. Monero Anglin advised that it's really easy. Most importantly, it is safe. Others have reached the same conclusion. Thomas Sowell, an Australian neo-Nazi currently facing charges, is soliciting donations in Monero for his legal defense fund. Now, if the real concern is being able to see what those transactions are used for, then why do you need them in Monero specifically? Anyway, continuing on. Jez Sirby, a martial arts instructor who headed an Australian chapter of the Proud Boys, is seeking donations only in Monero to help spread their message to a generation of young Aryan men that may feel alone or fail to understand the forces that are working against them. Also known as Women Won't Fuck You, and You're an Incel, and this is unfortunately very bad for you, I guess, for some reason. AryXD, thank you very much for redeeming your points for a hydrate. The Nordic resistance movement and countercurrents also solicit donations in other cryptocurrencies, including Monero, and the NRM has experimented with letting supporters mine Monero directly on their behalf. That's about all we really need to go into there. Point is, while I've already gone over the Daily Stormer as a whole and how everything that they write is basically just Nazi bullshit and why it's written the way it is, and even the part where they said that Alex Jones is an ally up until the point where he's not, so that they can, attack him for having a Jewish wife as soon as they need to make him as soon as they need to make him an enemy. Now we have this whole thing where they are trying to get a very particular kind of cryptocurrency so that nobody can track where their money is going at any point in time. Now, while there are the other organizations like the Proud Boys and other fucking Nazi chapters that are doing their thing, and we don't know what they're doing with those funds because it's going in a cryptocurrency like that, I mainly want to focus on the Daily Stormer thing. This is, again, a website that has been blacklisted on Google. This is a website that is constantly trying to argue that there are a group of people who are being violently oppressed by people who just so happen to have vaginas, or people who don't identify that way and, well, could have any number of things under there. You have no way of knowing. What is actually in a trans person's pants? Power, that's what. At the end of the day, the real thing that I want to ask with all this is, for you, the audience, is what type of a vulnerable person do you think buys into this persecution narrative where they are the victim of every single societal ill that is coming to them? Now, I know that we've heard this a few times with Christian rhetoric before, specifically where if they're not being persecuted, they're not being the right warriors for God they're supposed to be. But this is a little worse, because with that, there's mainly a theological bent, and you can sometimes reason people out of that. Here, though, the enemy is not some vaporous Satan that they can inject into every single aspect of society. It's actual, real people. Randful says, so it's a scam. Well, of course it is. It is taking advantage of vulnerable people and getting them to donate money to a cause which is not going to change their lives in any significant way. It's just going to keep pumping hatred to them. If you donate money to a content creator, you largely know where that money is going in most cases. For me, you know that money is going into buying new art for the channel. You know it's going into things for my own mental health. You know it's going into things like Magic the Gathering cards, because that is my hobby. Because, well, forefront and honesty. But when it comes to shit like this, we know that money is directly going into funding more and more hate, to make people feel infinitely more trapped. And, moreover, to make you feel like you need these people. With any content creator, if you abandon them and their content, most of your life probably doesn't change that much. But theirs does. So people like Anglin have to desperately convince you that you need them. If they can convince you that you need them, then they can convince you to spend money on them and keep spending money on them. Because after all, if you stop spending money on them, then they won't be able to do the good work that they're doing right now. People come of the Wii. Donate to Suris for shiny new avatars. If you like Big Booba, there's where the money goes. JacandQuil says, can confirm. I have a nuclear power plant between my legs. But, again, this is literally just a way to make content that makes people feel isolated, so that they donate to make the content that makes them feel isolated continue, because it is in that isolation that they find comfort. And there's something really disgusting about that. Not everybody who reads the Daily Stormer is a Nazi. Many of them are just victims. But the actual people who write the articles, there's no victimization there. They're perpetrators. So, now I gotta throw it back to you guys, the audience. What do you guys think about all of this? We haven't covered the Daily Stormer in a while, and I figured this would be a different angle to cover, specifically where their website's concerned. And it has been a very long time since I made that old video, so maybe I'll go ahead and post that video in the description below, or even in the comments section, so that anybody who needs a refresher on how their website works will have that video available to them. The Daily Stormer is cringe, everybody. They posted cring. They're gonna lose subscriber. Anyway, with all that said, thank you all for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. If you want access to behind-the-scenes content for the channel, please consider checking out my Patreon. I do weekly vlogs over there, where I give real-life updates to what's going on behind the scenes on the channel, stuff that you don't really get over here, and even on Twitch. Patreon also helps the channel's stability a whole lot. Without Patreon, I wouldn't be able to do this at all. Especially with the kind of content that I do, neither YouTube nor Twitch are the most stable sources of income. If you are a $20 and up patron, then you will be featured on the ending slides as shown in the beginning of the end credits. If you want to catch the streams where all this content comes from, then consider heading over to Twitch and following. And if you want to continue watching over here on YouTube, maybe consider clicking one of the end screen videos. And once again, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me over on my channel. I wouldn't be able to do literally anything that I'm doing over here on YouTube without each and every one of you. So, thank you.